most important things that you need to figure out to perform this etude well is the tempo that you're going to take. Dotted quarter note equals 86 beats per minute is incredibly brisk. And in fact, for many people, it's just ridiculously fast. You should always play in a manner that makes you look good. And what I mean by that is that you can play accurately and with ease. Okay? You will always score more points if you play accurately and with ease. Now, what's easy for you might be significantly under tempo compared to this dotted quarter equals 86. You need to do it your way. You will always score more points if you play it accurately and with ease. So if you need to go as slow as do so, okay? If you go faster than you can, it invites you to make a lot of errors, a lot of little errors, and even if you just had a lot of little errors, it will drive down your score in a heartbeat. So play with great character, play a tempo that you are comfortable with, ignore what anybody else you hear is doing, anybody else in your band is doing, stick with the tempo that you can do, and you'll walk out of this portion of the audition with as many points as you can get, which is the goal. One of the unique features of this prepared piece is the metric modulation that occurs from measure 7 to measure 8. So what's going on here? It says in the music above measure 8 that the dotted quarter note has got to equal the quarter note. And what that means is that the pulse has got to remain the same. If the pulse remains the same, the speed of the eighth note must change. All right? So what does that mean? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, and 2, and 1, and 2, and. And that's worth practicing by itself. Once you're comfortable with that, the next thing I would do is I would add the rest, that is the downbeat of measure 8. And if you wanted, you could go further by actually using the rhythm that's printed here. So obviously I'm just tonguing the rhythms and I'm ignoring any slurs right now when I do that. If you were to become very comfortable with that, it's going to be a lot easier for you to play. Good luck. So immediately after having made that metric modulation, you then are asked to accelerate. As if this was aren't already hard enough. So I think the Accelerando needs to be viewed in a couple different ways here. The very first thing to say is, if putting the Accelerando in is going to wreck your performance of this, leave it out. Leave it out, play accurate, play clean, play easy, and let the judges figure out how to score it. I think it's good to recognize that an Accelerando or any other musical feature like this, let's say that instead of an Accelerando we had a 4-measure crescendo. You have choices about what that means. There's nothing in the music that says you have to crescendo evenly over the 4 measures, or in this case, accelerate evenly over the course of the 4 measures. You could choose to accelerate a lot early, or a lot late, or accelerate evenly over the course of the time. So what would it sound like if I were to accelerate a lot early? Meaning, essentially, I'm going to try to have my new tempo established in measure 12. So forget trying to accelerate in measure 12. I'm going to play 12 easy at a new tempo. So it would sound like this. I basically was at my new tempo at the end of measure 11, and that made it easier for me to play all of measure 12 accurately. That's an avenue that you could choose to use, okay? Another avenue would be to delay the Accelerando, so maybe you accelerate a lot at the end of measure 12. You kind of have to see what fits and works best for you. Because again, there's nothing in the music that says the Accelerando from measure 9 to the beginning of measure 13 is linear. There's nothing that says it has to be perfectly evenly added across the entire 4 measures. Okay? It's up to you to decide. And sometimes you can make a musical decision that makes it easier for you to play the passages. Does that make sense? What if you even, pushed the Accelerando past measure 13? What if you said, I'm going to accelerate all the way to measure 14 or 15? If it sounds good, it sounds good. If you perform it effectively, they're probably going to score it well, even if it doesn't exactly fit the parameters of what they've asked for. And even if they take off a deduction for having extended the Accelerando, if you play everything more gracefully, you're going to score more points. And that's the nature of the audition. So a great place for you to add character and style is with articulation. And if you've seen my videos before, you've heard me talk about staccato versus legato and really adhering to it as much as you can when you play this thing. A great example is the first 2 measures. If it were legato, it would really sound different. It becomes very, very lyrical when you take out all the staccato articulations. Putting them back in, it becomes much more dance-like, much more playful. I hope you noticed that I absolutely, the quarter note in measure 2, I absolutely held legato. There's no staccato dot on it. If they'd wanted one there, they would have put it there. They didn't. Okay? I think a great place for you to employ this difference is at the end of measure 6. Those 4 eighth notes where I started are the first legato eighth notes in the entire opening of the piece, and it really sounds compelling to play them legato. There are some exceptions, and that is the beginning of measure 6. The faster one articulates, the less one needs to pay attention or try to employ staccato. So what I mean by that is, if you get this going pretty darn quickly, for whatever that means for you, whatever your personal tempo is, the faster you go at the beginning of measure 6, the more the notes automatically sound staccato. I'm not tonguing staccato. That's just legato. That's just my legato, and they already sound short. The one exception to that would be if you personally have discovered that your staccato is a little bouncier, and if your staccato allows you to play this a little quicker, use it. But generally speaking, when we see really, really fast 16ths with staccatos on them, I don't honor the staccato that much. I just rely on my tongue to be fast. Accents. The accents are the other really important thing anywhere that they're asked for. A really good example of this would be at the end of measure 17 going to 18. It's really tempting to accent the first note of 18. But they deliberately didn't ask for that. So anywhere that you have an accent, it's important that you try to deliver it, and just remember that an accent is a mini diminuendo. It's a burst of wind that dies off, okay? The last bit of advice I have on this prepared piece is very specific to clarinet players, all right? And it has to do with which B and C sharp you choose throughout the piece. Now, there are no D sharps in the piece. And if you had a D sharp, which must be played with the right pinky, then your decisions would be made for you. You would have to use the left C sharp and have to use the right B. But there are no D sharps in the piece. So you may choose whichever B and C sharp you'd like to use, all right? Now I find that a lot of young clarinet players, you learn one way of doing something and that is the way you do it. So you don't explore other options. And so if your primary B is the right B, that's the one you use most frequently, and your primary C sharp is the left C sharp, I would stick with it because there's only a week and a half left to learn this, okay? But for the future, the left B going to the right C sharp is the most economical, it's the fastest combination right there. And the reason why is as we reach for these pinkies, reach for these keys, our fingers don't have to extend very far. Whereas when we go for the right B to the left C sharp, we do have to extend. And it's not just that we extend, it's that our ring fingers kind of begin to come along with us. In the grand scheme of things, you'd like to be able to do both equally easily. But the faster you go, the more economical the left B to the right C sharp is. If the right C sharp is not something that you employ very frequently, don't worry about it for this piece. But in your D major scale and your A major scale, start using it. In the grand scheme of things, it'll help your technique a lot. I hope these thoughts are helpful and that they allow you to develop the piece with greater confidence. Again, the number one thing I've said in everything that I've related is go your tempo. Choose your tempo very purposefully, and don't be persuaded to play faster just because you hear somebody else play faster, or because you say to yourself, oh, well, it says dotted quarter equals 86, I must do that. No, you mustn't. You really need to go the tempo that you can do. If you end up going dotted quarter note equals 50 or slower, but it sounds good, you're going to score more points, okay? And it takes guts to do that, but if you want to improve your results, go the tempo you can go, all right? I hope, again, that this presentation has been helpful. If you have questions, leave them in the comments below. Good luck.